the demon named in Proverbs. When you think of the book of Proverbs, what comes to mind? Probably bite-sized chunks of wisdom, lessons on honesty, hard work, and living a good life. It's the Bible's practical guide to not messing things up. But what if I told you that hidden inside these ancient sayings is the name of a terrifying, destructive entity? A name that starts as a metaphor, but ends up as a key player in one of the Bible's most feared prophecies. Today, we're going to uncover the demon named in Proverbs and trace its path from a place of ruin, all the way to the angel of the abyss. We all think we know the Bible. We've heard the familiar stories, the comforting Psalms, and the wise Proverbs. But lurking in the shadows of the text, hiding in the ancient Hebrew, are connections that can completely change how we see good, evil, and the story God is telling. This is one of those connections. A name, first whispered in poetry, that becomes a roar in the apocalypse. This is the story of Abaddon. Section 1. The Old Testament Footprints. Our search begins, not with fire and brimstone, but in the quiet, poetic books of the Old Testament. The name Abaddon shows up 6 times in the Hebrew Bible, and to get a grip on its final, terrifying form, we have to start at its roots. The word itself comes from the Hebrew avad, which means to perish or to destroy. So Abaddon translates to destruction, or more vividly, a place of destruction. See, at first, Abaddon isn't a who, it's a what, a concept, a destination. Let's turn to the book of Proverbs. Chapter 15, verse 11 says, "Sheol and Abaddon lie open before the Lord. How much more the hearts of the children of man." Here, Abaddon is paired with Sheol. Sheol was the Hebrew idea of the realm of the dead, a shadowy underworld for everyone who died. By putting Abaddon right next to Sheol, the writer is making a powerful point. It's like saying, the grave, and even the very idea of total destruction, are not hidden from God. It's a statement about God's all-seeing power. Nothing, not even the deepest, most final ruin, is outside of God's view. We see this again in Proverbs 27, verse 20. "Sheol and Abaddon are never satisfied, and never satisfied are the eyes of man." Here, the endless hunger of the grave and destruction is used as a metaphor for human greed. Death and destruction are personified as having a bottomless stomach, always consuming but never full, just like our own ambitions can be. This idea pops up in the much older book of Job, too. In Job 26:6, it says, "Sheol is naked before God, and Abaddon has no covering." Again, the theme is God's complete power over death and destruction. Later in Job, while on the hunt for wisdom, the text says of it, "Abaddon and death say, we have only a report of it." In this verse, destruction and death are like characters in a play who have only heard rumors of true wisdom, hammering home the point that wisdom isn't found in the grave. So the Old Testament picture is pretty clear. Abaddon is a place, a state of being, a poetic symbol for the ultimate chaotic end. It's the pit, the ruin, the final decay. But it's always a place known and controlled by God. It has no will of its own. It's simply the end of the line. But in the Bible, concepts have a way of becoming concrete. Places have a way of becoming people. And in the final book of the Bible, this place of destruction gets a face, a title, and a terrifying new job. Section 2. The transformation from place to person. The jump from a poetic idea to a living, breathing entity is one of the wildest and most terrifying transformations in all of Scripture. For centuries, Abaddon was just a word for a destination. But when we flip from the Old Testament to the New, something changes. The name gets pulled from the abstract and is given a crown. Our investigation now leads us to the book of Revelation, the apocalyptic vision of the Apostle John. This is where Abaddon's story takes a seriously chilling turn. The New Testament was written in Greek, not Hebrew, but John reaches back into ancient Hebrew tradition to pull this name forward, making sure we don't miss the connection. The scene is set in Revelation chapter 9. The world is getting hammered by a series of judgments, announced by 7 angels sounding 7 trumpets. When the 5th angel blows his trumpet, a star falls from heaven. This isn't a celestial body. It's an intelligent being, and it's given a key. The key to the shaft of the abyss, or the bottomless pit. John's vision is pure nightmare fuel. The pit opens, and smoke pours out, so thick it darkens the sun and sky. But what comes out of that smoke has haunted readers for 2,000 years. An army of locusts. But these aren't your garden variety pests. John is specific. They are told not to harm any grass or trees, but only the people who do not have God's seal on their foreheads. Their mission isn't to kill, but to torture. Their sting is like a scorpion's, and the pain they cause is so unbearable that people will beg to die. But death itself will run from them. The description of these things is horrifying. They look like horses ready for battle, with something like gold crowns on their heads. They have human-like faces, hair like a woman's, and teeth like a lion's. They wear iron breastplates, and the sound of their wings is like the thunder of 1,000 chariots charging into war. This is a demonic army, unleashed from the abyss to carry out a very specific, agonizing judgment. And an army this organized needs a leader, a king. And it's here, in verse 11 of chapter 9, that our story hits its climax. Section 3, the climax, the king of the abyss. After describing this demonic locust army and the torture they inflict, John reveals the identity of their leader. And in doing so, he connects the entire Bible, from the poetry of Proverbs to the terror of the apocalypse, in a single verse. Revelation 9:11 reads, "They had as king over them the angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek is Apollyon." Let that sink in. The word that for centuries meant a place of destruction is now the proper name of a being. Abaddon is no longer a pit. He's the king of the pit. He is the angel of the abyss. The passive concept of destruction is now an active, evil intelligence leading a demonic army. John deliberately gives us the name in 2 languages to make sure we get it. First, he uses the Hebrew name Abaddon, directly connecting this being to the realm of destruction from Job and Proverbs. He's basically telling his readers, you know that place of ruin you've read about? It has a king. This is him. Then, for his Greek-speaking audience, he gives a translation, Apollyon. Apollyon means the destroyer. John leaves no room for doubt. This being's very name, in both the ancient language of the Old Testament and the common language of the New, is destruction. He is ruin personified, the living embodiment of the chaos his name once only described. The abstract horror now has a face. The demon has been named. Section 4. The identity debate. Angel or demon. So who or what is Abaddon, the destroyer? The Bible calls him the angel of the abyss, but this title just adds to the mystery. Is he a fallen angel, a top demon in Satan's command structure, or something else entirely? Theologians have been debating this for centuries. One popular theory is that Abaddon is just another name for Satan or the Antichrist. This view sees the king of the locusts as the ultimate enemy, the mastermind of evil leading the final charge against humanity. However, other scholars argue he's a separate entity. They point out that later in Revelation, Satan is captured and thrown into the abyss, which would be weird if he was already its king. This leads to a second, more complex idea. Abaddon is a unique angelic being serving God's purpose. In this view, he's an angel of judgment, a terrifying tool of divine wrath sent by God to punish the unholy. He isn't a rebel like Satan. He's an executioner, carrying out his work of destruction on God's orders. He's a force of divine justice, not random evil. This makes Abaddon one of the most complicated figures in the entire Bible. He's not quite a demon, but a celestial being whose whole identity is wrapped up in destruction. Whether he's an agent of hell or a grim servant of heaven, his job title stays the same: the Destroyer. This journey from a word to a warrior also made a huge cultural impact. Centuries later, in his famous book, The Pilgrim's Progress, John Bunyan featured Apollyon as a hideous monster who attacks the hero, Christian. Bunyan's portrayal of a dragon-winged fiend cemented Abaddon Apollyon in the popular imagination as a classic demonic enemy. The story of Abaddon, from a simple word in Proverbs to a terrifying king in Revelation, shows just how layered the Bible really is. It's full of these hidden threads connecting poetry to prophecy. What's another biblical connection that has always fascinated you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Conclusion. So let's bring it all together. We've seen how a name, Abaddon, started as a Hebrew word for a place, the realm of destruction, a pit that lay open and naked before God. In the wisdom books, it was a poetic symbol for the final, insatiable end. But as the Bible's story unfolds, this place becomes a person. The idea of destruction is given a crown and an army. In the final, terrifying visions of Revelation, Abaddon is unmasked as the angel of the abyss, the king of a demonic horde sent to unleash torture upon the world. The demon named in Proverbs was never a literal demon in that book. Instead, Proverbs gave us the name for a concept so powerful, so absolute, that it would eventually be personified by one of the most frightening beings in the entire biblical story. It reveals a stunning continuity, showing how the seeds of apocalyptic terror were planted in the soil of poetic wisdom. It proves that in the world of the Bible, ideas have power, words have weight, and sometimes the place of destruction can rise up, take a name, and become the destroyer.